everyone, I'm Mr. P here with Mr. Dave and Mr. Jethro.
Hello.
We're the Geeky guys, welcome to another episode of Showpod.
Indeed.
It's a bit interesting, this one, a little bit different too, because we're not actually talking about something we've seen on television in terms of a TV show or anything like that. We're talking aliens, we're talking specifically UFOs and aliens. And this big question, the truth is out there, but is it? Have they actually visited Earth? That's the big question. Now, we got into a little bit of a debate about this the other week. In fact, almost an argument, and that doesn't normally happen very often.
No, we normally agree on a lot of things.
And it was like, well, let's talk about this on a video and really air it out, because at least if we're on video, you can't hit me.
Well,
Although I am sat in the middle of you, which is probably not the best place to be. So before we start, let's just get a sort of vague notion of where we stand on this. So if we had a scale, and in the middle, we're at 50%, as in half, don't know, yes or no, right in the middle. Would you be within the scale of 50 to 100%, as in you think there possibly have been visitations, or would you be in the scale down towards 0%, where it's less likely? Somewhere within that. So are you on the more than 50% or less than 50% scale?
I think I would have to be on the 50% up, more likely.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Jethro.
I currently got splinters in my bottom because I'm going to be right in the middle.
You can't do that.
Why?
Okay.
So that's
Fine.
definitely
You're sitting on the fence. I'm on the less than. I think the chances are less likely that this has actually happened.
Explain yourself.
Well, at the end of the day, it all comes down to evidence. Now, when I say evidence, people can present evidence, obviously, that they consider to be evidence. I'm sure Dave's going to suggest some things, you're going to point things out. And I'm the skeptic here, so I'm going to do my best to try and, using common sense and reasoning, kind of say why that might not be evidence. However, at the end of this discussion, we may all have changed our minds, tentatively.
We can't change our minds. You know, people talking on the internet, it doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it's happened. And the reason I don't think it's happened is because we've not seen this BBC breaking news, aliens have just landed on the White House lawn. Okay, that's where I'm going to start my argument. It's a big planet, true, but it's very densely populated in certain areas. And if you were going to visit a planet, you would probably go and visit where there were people.
Would you though?
Yeah.
Well, it depends by visit. Who are we talking about that's actually visited?
I mean,
Are we talking like humanoids? I mean, during the course of this discussion, we are going to get into science, and we are going to look at the universe, and we're going to look at the possibility, the probability of life developing just on Earth for a start. I don't know the numbers off my head, but it's ridiculously, stupidly low.
but we know that it has happened.
Here, yes.
Yeah. So we know that it is possible. We know that it is possible for life to develop on a planet. We also know that there are multiple different planets, in fact millions of different planets, in our galaxy. And the universe has existed for billions of years. Like one estimate suggests like nearly 14 billion years. A more recent suggestion suggests 28 billion years.
Yeah.
Either way, it's been around for a long time, so it could have occurred elsewhere.
My thought on that specifically is that as the universe expands outwards, which is what it's doing, and you look at the distances between planets, it's just in our solar system, but then you take our solar system to the next, and so on and so on and so on. Space is not this big densely populated thing that you look up in the sky and see lots of stars. They're not actually close together at all. There is vast amounts of just void space of rubbish, of nothing. And I'm talking like immense amounts of space that we're talking here that you can't comprehend.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that life hasn't developed somewhere else in the universe. I'm simply saying it's not got here. Because the chances are it's already died out by the time this planet was formed and has humans on it.
Can I just interrogate your point of view there for a second?
Sure.
What are your assumptions on their life expectancy? Because how long does it take to go to Australia? Like 1.5 days, 2 days, which for us is like barely anything. Like we can do that easily. But if you're say a mayfly, that is a huge chunk of your lifespan. What if like stellar travel is something similar, and we are the mayflies?
There's lots of unknowns, isn't there? I mean, like you said, the two big questions are: is there life in the universe? Has life visited here? And I think both scientists agree these days that there's a very high likelihood that there is other life in the universe.
Some kind of life.
Yeah, we're not saying what kind of life. We're not saying it's human
highly
or higher.
improbable that there's no life in the universe. Heck, we've found microbes on planets in our own solar system. So, and that's technically life. If you're talking about, okay, just put it into some context that we can look on a screen. You're in Starfleet, in Star Trek. You jump on a ship, you go to the next system. All of a sudden, you bump into another alien race. I don't see any of that happening anytime within. Well, I don't really see that happening, to be fair. But any time in the next millennia, 2 millennia, I think that the only way that's going to happen. Well, I don't think anyone's like visited on a spaceship, come to Earth, popped down and had a wander around, left anything behind technology-wise, and gone away again.
I think the problem is a lot of the time, and I've said this to quite a few people, but there's a lot of very sort of human-based assumptions. So, like the distances between the galaxies and the systems are so far that within a lifetime you couldn't make that journey. But that's looking at the technology and the science that we're aware of now, and we're assuming that we're at the peak of the pyramid and that nobody else has done anything different or anything better or anything more exotic to be able to shorten those journey times. We obviously know, like we would agree that if somebody's in another galaxy, even on the nearest star, with the conventional kind of propulsion that we've got at the moment in terms of rocket fuel or even like ion fusion and even like nuclear to an extent, would still take a very long time. Mm-hmm. But you could potentially use something different, and that's just something that we need to keep in mind, that we might not know everything. There might be things about the universe, things about science, the way that things work with each other that we haven't quite worked out yet. And also the fact as well where people say, oh, we've been sending radio signals out for years and we haven't had a radio signal back. And you're kind of assuming that you're going to have another race that can pick up radio signals and know how to read them and know how to send them back. It might be completely alien to them, that they might never have communicated in that way. So I think there's a lot of assumptions, but as you say, it does come down to evidence. You've even though it's becoming less of a fringe subject, less of a fringe area now, but I think you still need to use rigorous science on it. Prove whatever you've got hasn't come from Earth, that it has been made artificially. It's something that's put together the way that we wouldn't do it or couldn't do it, or metals and material we don't recognise is the way that you would do it. And it's just whether you believe the evidence of that this stuff has been found and has been looked at, and there is mysterious things that have been discovered that can't be explained.
There's civilizations on this planet that were born and have died out and since gone, and they brought science and stuff that even now you look back and say they knew that then. That was a marvel. We actually digressed, de-evolved, if you like, almost. We weren't as clever as them for a while, and then we've learned that stuff again, or discovered it, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the ways that they built some of the monuments back in the day, with like the pyramids and some of these Stonehenge, Göbekli Tepe places like that they're finding. They're saying, how did they move these really heavy stones arranged them in the way they have, and things that have got like almost like laser accurate edges and things, and they're kind of saying they must have used something that has been lost to time, and they obviously worked something out, and we haven't got that.
There's something to remember that everything that we're finding that is sort of like tools or weapons that a lot of like early humans have used, with things that are made out of like stone or bone. What about stuff that generally like degrades, like wood or fur or skin, like other tools that we've made? Like that's not going to survive hundreds, thousands, or millions of years, is it?
No.
So there's going to be a lot when it comes to history that we don't know.
Yeah. I grant you that. And just going back to something Dave mentioned there about alloys, the universe is made up of so many building blocks. Period. If you're American, full stop. That's it. There's only so many elements in the universe as such. It's made of so many atoms, or you could put things together in a different way to try and make something else, but it'll still be made of those basic blocks.
Yeah, the same things, the ratios and things like that.
So when you talk about like finding alien objects that are made of like special alloys and that kind of thing, I'm always somewhat skeptical, because that's kind of a science fiction notion that there's this weird alloy.
Yeah, but then you look at things like discoveries of like metamaterials and metals and carbon fibre tubes and things like that, which a few years ago would have seemed like science fiction and how could you do that? But yet now we do it. So
I think that's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying it's not possible for us to come up with, or for anyone to come up with another weird alloy. Yeah. I'm just saying that it's probably something that we could recreate quite easily.
But if we can recreate it, and if it is like some material that we know that can't, all that we believe can't be made naturally, and if we can create it, then that means that it can be created.
Yes.
So someone must have created it.
Yes, but why not someone else on Earth?
I mean, it depends on like who, or do they have the means to? Let's say you mentioned about like people like looking at ancient civilizations and how could they have done this? Well, I mean, just because we don't know doesn't necessarily mean it's aliens, and there are a lot of people that do suggest that it is aliens.
Just to interject you there, talking about aliens, we'll come back to that in a moment, because we have features here on our Showpods, and one of them is Geeky Guy's Favourites, where we all say what our favourite of a particular thing is, and it's a good one, this one, and it's on trend and it's on theme. So what we do is at the end of our show we come back with our answers. The question is today for our Geeky Guy's Favourites: what is your favourite alien from a TV show or film? But just to make it a little bit more not obvious, we can't use Doctor Who, Star Trek or Star Wars. They're out.
We're talking species or individuals?
Either or. Just something to think about before the end. And now a word about our sponsor. Are you looking to take your business or idea online? Then Namespace has you covered. From personal websites, e-commerce and fully managed IT services, see what Namespace can do for you today at namespace.rocks.
I think keeping on the same sort of subject area of like ancient times and things, been like Jethro was talking about the supposed like evidence in like ancient times of like UFOs and strange things seen in the sky and aliens, and people talk about a lot of like strange rock art that like doesn't make any sense, that were like drawn on cave walls thousands of years ago that look like things that were seen in the sky, or figures that don't look human, or like a tribal celebration type of thing. They're not quite sure what they are. They look really weird. They don't look human. You've got sort of like paintings, similar things where things look like UFOs that are like seen in there, which they're not quite sure what the painter's trying to depict. And then you've got things like the Nazca lines, where they're like images made thousands of years ago of like animal and plant life that you can only see the image from like up in the sky, and they're like, why go to all that trouble to not be able to see what it is, appreciate what it is on the ground?
You could explain that away a little bit though. It doesn't mean just because you can see it from above, that it was designed by and built by someone from above. It just means that someone on the ground that was very clever, and we've already talked about the fact that people back then were a lot cleverer perhaps than what originally they were given credit for.
Yeah, but that time though, if they were above, then it was who was above to be seen.
No.
these
What I'm
things.
saying is, they also believed in like sun gods and so on. So it could simply be that this was pictures and drawings and offerings to sun gods or things like that, not aliens.
But it's interesting to bring that up because here are similar arguments being made about crop circles.
Yeah.
And
You can fake those now so well that argument, almost any new ones now would become mutant void. And even the ones back then, there was a famous lot of crop circles that were proved to be faked. The person who did it came forward. But at the time, everyone like, oh, crop circles. Well, you've now kind of made all of them null and void by saying, oh, we just made it up, we could do it. Well, now you don't know that any of them are other than some prank.
muddied the waters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean there is some that are more strange than others, that are like so geometrically perfect and the corners affected in a certain way that, you know, it doesn't seem like people could do it. There's no kind of tyre tracks or foot tracks going into the field. Completed like within like an hour, and like usually if the man made it, normally takes them like the whole night into like the morning to do it. So there is still some strange ones out there. They're not fully explained yet.
And
there
that's
are
the
man-made
point
ones
for
as well.
me. That's the point. Not fully explained yet, because you can make them, and just the fact that they're in a particular pattern or a particular accuracy just means that someone's perfected that hoax better than somebody else. That's just my thought. I mean, if aliens land on my back garden tomorrow, I'll put my hands up and tell you I'm wrong. But until then, I still think that crop circles are just a load of rubbish.
So you mentioned hoax, like, and it's easy for people to, hoax things. I guess they always were, but why would someone make a hoax of something like that? Like,
attention, publicity.
yeah.
I mean, conspiracy theorists are dime a dozen, and they get so involved in it and they believe it so much that they'll believe anything. I mean,
some like parasitic grifter comes along and tries to sell them a book.
Yeah. I mean, look, you look at people like Donald Trump. He managed to get a whole country, the majority of the country to vote for him.
Oh, he lost a popular vote both elections.
Well, either way, he got voted in. I mean, how much of a hoax can you get? He can't even read an auto cue. And when he can read properly, he goes off and says weird stuff. He can't pronounce things properly. Anyway, that's not the
Last
point.
episode you said you won't get political.
I know.
It's taken... No.
The point is, you've got believers out there of Trump right now, just conspiracy theory time, and they're marching for him, and they're being quizzed and questioned, and their answers are stupid and they don't make sense because they don't know what they're doing. If he said aliens exist, they'd all believe it. The internet would be crowded with videos of people, and
Why doesn't he talk about aliens? Because he's all in this legal drama.
Anyway, let's put that aside. Let's talk Roswell for a second. So,
okay.
in the 40s, it was believed that an alien spacecraft, crash landed in Roswell, New Mexico. And the craft and potentially remains or bodies of aliens who were inside that craft were taken to Area 51, which is a large military installation airbase outside of Las Vegas. None of that happened. There was no ship, but there was absolutely no aliens. The worst, it was put down to being a weather balloon. The chances are it probably was a weather balloon, or it was some kind of foreign spy satellite type thing that's fell to Earth, and the government hushed it up. It just took one person to go, oh, it was an alien, it was a craft. I saw it, and all of a sudden it blew up. Because of the secrecy surrounding that base, that made it worse.
The Streisand effect.
Yeah, no one could go near the base anyway. Everyone was hushed up to secrecy. Not because of what it was, but just because that's what it was a secret base. Everyone knew it was there, but they didn't know what they was doing. Then,
I want to. It's secret.
Well, this is it. We found out about, was it 10 years ago now, or 15 years ago, all the documents were unsealed from that period.
In 2013, was it?
13, was it? And everything to do with that secrecy around that time at Area 51, which, oh, what's it called? What's the actual airbase called? Area 51's actual name? Can't remember.
Homey Air Base, I think.
Was it Homey? I'll change its name. Anyway, it was all to do with an experimental aircraft that they were building called, was it Bluebird? And they still test aircraft at Area 51. And the military Air Force have been doing it at their absolutely decades. And they wind test them outside. There's a particular thing they put aircraft on. And it was the aircraft they were testing could fly higher than anything else that was constructed, faster than anything else. It had the camera technology on there was so good that they could pick up troop movements on. This was the 40s into the 50s, and it was the early 50s, wasn't it? And they could pick up that the camera. They've released some images of like Russian depots and things, and this was like at 40,000 feet or something stupid. It was ridiculous. It would fly. It was radar. It was impervious to radar as much as it was at the time. It would fly in a night all the way up the whole length of the US. No one knew. The US, no one in America knew. The Air Force, most of the Air Force didn't know. And obviously airline pilots were saying, "I've seen a UFO," because they didn't believe anything was able to fly above them. So, if you take that one example from the 1950s, 40s and 50s, and you say, well, how good has that technology got? All of a sudden, every UFO sighting after that is potentially, or probably now, just some kind of experimental craft.
I mean, that is certainly some of it. There's certainly technology that isn't out in the public domain where, if you saw it and you didn't know of it, you may, like you say, you may mark it down as something out of this world when it isn't. It's just super secret, brand new technology.
Yeah.
And I think that there is quite a bit of that. I think you do find that. But also there is things that are seen in the sky that are seen on radar, that pilots have interacted with, that nuclear facilities have interacted with, and they've not been able to explain them. And there's been people that have even said, it's not something that's under development secretly.
Well, no one would say that, but you wouldn't know. That's my point on that. You wouldn't know that it's under development because they don't tell you. It was all top secret. And with drone technology as it is at the moment, you look, because I know what you mean. You're talking about the things where they've said, like, there's a circular thing and I've gone towards it and it's gone off at tremendous speed and it's done manoeuvres that they don't believe it should be able to make. But drones can spin around and fly off really quickly. So for me, I just believe a UFO is by definition an unidentified flying object. Does not mean it's an alien object, as in alien to this planet. It just means unidentified. And for me, until it's identified as an actual alien spacecraft, then it is something that can be explained. And we all know, Jethro, you're a little bit more into this kind of science than I am, but when you look at things from a certain angle, you see different things from a different, you see a different shape or whatever.
Yeah.
It's distorted or whatever. So even pictures that have been taken, and I'm not talking doctored pictures, I'm talking real pictures that someone's took, and it looks like a UFO. If you take that picture and you go inside that picture and you manoeuvre yourself around to a different point of view, what you may see is something completely different.
Are you talking about the phenomenon of parallax?
Partly. I'm not talking just that, but partly. I'm just talking anything that would explain the fact that you look at it from one angle and it looks one way, but if you looked at it from a different angle, it may look like something different.
A good example of this would be in 2015, the air group assigned to the USS Gerald Ford in the North Atlantic detected some unidentified flying objects and they filmed them. And looking at the footage, it's in black and white, it's blurry as anything, but you can just make out these...
It always is. Sorry.
But you got these shapes, and one explanation for one of them is because the footage that one plane managed to capture was this like dot moving almost like in a complete straight line across the sea. But an explanation for that would be that the object's actually moving relatively slowly. The aircraft was moving quite quickly in the opposite direction, So when the camera is filming said object, you have parallax. So it's going to go like the background is going to be the sea, and that's going to appear to go past the object really, really quickly, giving the illusion that the object itself is going very, very quickly. So when you say optical illusions, that could be possibly one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, have either of you seen UFO?
Yes, in the fact that I've looked up in the sky, saw something moving, and thought, I wonder what that is.
In the traditional sense of lights in the sky moving weirdly, doing weird things.
No, I've seen something that once you've focused on it, you realise it's just a plane or whatever. Or, I've never seen anything that I've looked at and gone, that is a UFO.
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you looking through a lens?
No.
Oh.
Naked eye. It was
Right.
at night. Low light pollution. Couldn't make out any body, but it was moving weirdly, and it moved quite like sharply.
Okay. Erratically, even.
I wouldn't say erratically, but it was like moving like with purpose, and then it sort of changed direction.
Could you
and
make
it's like-
out the shape of the object?
No, I could just see a light.
Had you been drinking?
No,
Had you eaten anything that made your stomach a little off?
no.
Okay. You've not had cold or flu recently?
I mean, I felt a bit off after seeing it because I was just, oh yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it? But
So conspiracy theorists would say, oh, it's a ray, it made me feel terrible. Okay.
yeah.
When was it? What year?
Oh, we're talking like 10 years ago.
So theoretically, it could be an early version of a drone that's been created.
It could have been.
Theoretically.
It's unidentified. I had no idea what it was. I just thought, oh yeah, that's a bit weird.
So what you tend to find is when you've got a sighting, there's lots of other sightings in the same area, because whatever the same thing is that someone's flying around, they obviously, a few people see it. You don't tend to normally get one person sees one thing, unless of course you're right in the middle of the sticks, and of course no one else is there to see it. And someone comes back, I'm not saying you're, and someone else comes back and says, oh, I've seen a UFO today. Oh, and then all of a sudden they write a book about it, strangely enough. And it becomes a bestseller.
I should have wrote a book about it.
I saw one as well.
Oh, when about was this?
When I was younger, about 12, 13.
I'll give you the same questions. Could you make out the shape?
Just the kind of traditional cylindrical kind of shape, like yellow, really bright.
When you say cylindrical, was it like a proper traditional cylinder, or was it more like a lozenge?
Probably more like a cylinder, I think. And like you say, the erratic movement, the speed, and then also the turn at the end. It kind of went across, and it stopped, hovered, and then just shot up. And that was around like 1992. I don't know what it was. I'm not going to say that it was definitely like aliens or something, but it was certainly weird.
And I'll grant you that those kind of examples are hard to explain, apart from the most common obvious answer that I could possibly come out with, which was that it was a test flight of something. But again, I don't know it is, just like you don't know that it's not. And the problem you've got with this whole conversation is that we can't sit here and definitively prove one way or the other, which is why Jethro is now getting splinters in his bottom, because he's sat on the fence, which is probably the right place to be. So what we're going to do, let's take a moment to just regroup and think about this. And while we do that, it's time for me and Dave to put our heads against each other. Not like that, Dave. It's a battle of minds as we enter into our quiz section.
Quiz mode.
Yes, each time we record a video here at Geeky Guys HQ, Mr. Jethro prepares a set of questions, and myself and Mr. Dave go head to head to see who wins. And don't forget, as a quick reminder, the person at the end of this series that wins the most amount of shows gets a prize, and the one who doesn't has to do a forfeit.
So forfeit.
Yeah, so it's everything to play for. As we go into this, I think this is our third round, episode of questions, third quiz session. So let's go and see how well we do.
And we're back for another quiz. How are we doing?
Quiz number 3.
Yeah, we're doing all right. Very quizzical.
Very quizzical,
Love it,
excited.
Question number 1.
True. I'm joking.
Who wrote Dune.
I don't know.
I know this. I think it's wrong, but I'll have a guess. Philip K. Dick.
No, incorrect.
I don't know. I'm going to have to pass. I have no idea.
Okay, the answer was Frank Herbert.
Damn it.
Question number 2. When was the original Blade Runner set?
2001.
Incorrect.
2010.
Your buzzer? That's why you got buzzers.
2010.
Incorrect. The answer is 2019, but because you got it closer, I'll mark you on.
You see, I didn't know that. I'm not a big fan of Blade Runner, as you probably are aware by now. But the second one's 2049.
Yeah.
I mean the title.
And it's got what's his name in it again, hasn't it?
Harrison Ford.
So it's,
Decker.
if you go back and you look at his lifespan, 80 years, 40 years, 50 years, it's got to be somewhere around there, because otherwise he'd be too old, wouldn't he?
Question number 3. What is the company that generally does the VFX for Lucasfilm and other... Go on then.
ILM. Industrial Light and Magic.
There we go.
For a minute there, I thought it was going to say, give me the full acronym. And just go, I don't know.
They also did Star Trek: The Next Generation.
Question number 4. What planet were the original Cybermen from? Ooh. I honestly can't tell who went first. Who did it go first? You.
Maybe me just.
Go on.
Mondas.
Go on then. Yep.
Was just.
Again, we've been recording some Doctor Who things, so we talked about
We have,
and Cyberman recently.
Question number 5. In total, throughout the whole franchise, how many episodes are there of Star Trek?
I don't know. I'm gonna take a guess, because I assume you're gonna go closest wins.
Yep, close.
I'm just gonna go 500. No, that's way too. 600.
You're going to go for 600?
I go 600.
Mr. Dave, what are you going to go with?
1,300.
1,300. The correct answer is 904. So, hold on a minute. You're closer.
I said my first was a bit low, because I just figured, sod it, roughly 100 a series. Three main series, but there's maybe 4 main series. Original series, but that wasn't, they only did 3 series of that. And
That's what you've got to think
I
about,
didn't
innit?
realise it was so high. That's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. Question number 6. Throughout the whole franchise, how many episodes of Doctor Who are there?
Oh, come on. I don't know where to guess, Dave. I'll do a starting point, shall I? You can decide. I'm just jump. 4,000.
4,000.
2,300.
I think you're going to get this. I think I went way too high.
It's 862.
Hey, is that it?
So, Mr. Dave, you win that one.
The series must be a lot shorter than we thought. Those classic shows.
Yeah,
Because you see like season 26 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, but the only.
Seemed like a lot, but
All right, question number 7. Which model of Terminator was sent back to kill John Connor in Terminator 2?
I don't know. It's going to be this. I'm going to go T900.
Ooh, no.
T500.
No, T1000.
Oh! T1000. I was thinking that was the.
We're not going closest wins on that one. All right, question number 8. In Star Trek, what does PAD stand for?
Personal access and display device.
Correct. Question number 9. Who directed Star Trek Insurrection?
Jonathan Frakes.
Yep.
Yeah, that just come to me then as you pressed it.
It did First Contact, and I was just thinking, did he do the next one? And I was like, yeah, he did. I'm sure he did Insurrection as well.
All right. The question number 10. We're going to do this a bit differently. We're going to ask the question, and then whoever can give me the most correct answers will get the point.
Idea.
Which series of Star Trek has Jonathan Frakes not appeared in?
Okay, well, I'll go with the original series.
Yep. Mr. Dave?
Strange New World.
Correct. Yep.
Discovery.
Correct.
Prodigy.
Correct.
Star Trek, the animated series.
Yep. So you got 3, you got 2, so I'm going to have to give Mr. P the point to that one.
Oh, lovely.
So the result of that is Mr. Dave with 2, Mr. P with 6.
Oh,
doing well at the moment.
Doing well. Excellent. Well, Dave.
Oh, Mr. P's in the lead.
Yes, he's taking the lead on me.
You know what? I still wasn't completely 100% happy with that performance. We said we ought to brush up again. We still need to do that. I think I'm going to be saying this every episode until the end, until one of us wins or loses. That was, yeah. I mean, well.
Disappointing.
That'll look next time.
You know what? Let's see. If people are going to be commenting, I knew that was obvious. Anyway, back to what we're talking about, which is, of course, aliens. And I'm not talking tribbles or anything from an actual planet. We had these out for a different video and we never used them. So I thought I've got to get them in a video somewhere, haven't I?
Yeah,
so aliens, potentially like this, they don't have to be humanoid, do they?
Well, no. Like the typical grey aliens, you know the types.
Yeah,
where
yeah.
just sort
The
of like-
rubber mask ones that everyone wears at parties.
But the bipedal ones, which are usually like 4 to 5 feet tall, big heads, big eyes, small mouth, small body. But that tends to be the consensus when it comes to that. When it comes to humanoid aliens, there's either that or reptilians. But what do you guys think of the phenomena of abduction stories?
It's
Knew that's going to happen.
Yeah, let Mr. P think a minute on that one. Yeah, it's an interesting one. The problem that you've got with the vast majority of the abduction stories is a lot of the core information is pulled out through hypnosis. After the effect, people just kind of feel a bit weird. They know something's happened, but they're not sure. They're not sure if what they've experienced is a dream or whether it was something based in reality. And so it's all based through kind of like regression and bringing these memories back. But then it's how do you trust hypnosis? Can it, is that 100% truthful, or are they bringing things up from the mind that it's just in the mind that didn't actually happen? So you do have issues with that, although there has been certain cases in the past where certain things have been found on the body or in the body which seem foreign or which seem strange and they don't know how they got there. We go into things like implants and things that have been pulled out of people that appear to be like emitting like signals from them. Is strange, and things like scratches and scoop marks, which are are very difficult to attribute to anything otherworldly.
What sort of implants are you talking about?
Well, there's been kind of witnesses that have come forward in the past. They've said that they've got a feeling that they've had something put in the nose or behind their ear or something like that, or in the leg, and then they'll go. They'll probably do a hypnotic regression and say, "Oh, this is what happened," and then they'll go to a doctor. They'll do an X-ray and they'll actually find an object there where they've said that it is. And some people have had surgeries and had them taken out, and they've been very mysterious sort of material, and some of them have been sort of seen as emitting sort of signals as though it's transmitting something.
This can be externally corroborated?
Yeah, there's people that have done tests that have said that this shouldn't be in the body. It's a foreign object. There's a kind of weird situation where the body doesn't reject it, where it would normally reject foreign matter. It just seems to sit there, and sometimes it fuses with like the tissue or with like the nerves and things like that. So it's really, really bizarre. But you have to trust the testimony. You either trust it or you don't, or you just say it's something weird that you can't explain. But there's certainly lots of like odd things that have been found and like tested and been anomalous. But as Mr. P says, it's very difficult to prove it without a shadow of a doubt in a lot of the cases.
I've stayed quite quiet through all of that.
I could hear you biting your tongue.
I'm now going to give you the devil's advocate other version of what you've just said. Okay. So, in terms of foreign things in the body not being rejected, that kind of thing, it's quite normal to put things in the body and not have it rejected. So, women, for example, certain birth control capsules can be placed inside the body, and they are not rejected as a matter of course. No matter, depending on where you put them, in the arm, quite common, you can have something put in there. So the body rejecting
Hip
it.
replacements?
Yeah, anything like that. Any metal, titanium bits you put in the body.
So these implants, were they mainly metals?
There was some that were metals. There was some that were more like kind of asteroidy type material, stuff like that. Which is
there's in terms of it getting there. And again, I'm not saying that this is an answer for everything. I'm just saying this is one possible option.
hypothesis.
The amount of people, there's doctors that have written books about working in ERs and so on, and they've about X-rays or people that have come into the ER to have things removed by accidentally putting it there. Okay, normally due to them being a little bit naughty.
Yes.
Everything from action men to everything else, right?
Buzz Lightyear.
So, and these things, some of these things have been there for quite some time. If you were young and a child and you, I don't know, you eat a piece of gravel or whatever, but you don't really realise it and it just gets a bit lodged somewhere and it just sits there quite comfortably because the body just says, oh yeah, that's just a bit of gravel, we'll ignore that. And then they get older and older and older, but they've got this subconscious thing that they maybe not remember it, but they've got a subconscious memory of doing that. And people are quite intuitive about their own bodies a lot of the time. So that could potentially answer maybe some of those.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if it's something like that where it's been ingested, it would be very unlikely to be behind the ear or in the foot.
It's
or
just
leg
an option.
and things
But I mean,
like
when
that.
you're kids, you got your 2 or 3 year olds playing. Who knows whether someone chucks it in their ear or whatever. I'm just giving you a possible option to counteract that.
Can I also add another point of view?
Certainly.
With all these hypnosis, these stories.
I was going to come on to the hypnosis thing in a minute.
How come there are so many similar stories from people who haven't met each other? You could argue now, because it's permeated pop culture, that anything gathered now would be tainted. But things back then, people report on seeing similar things. How could we explain that?
That's what caused a few of the early doctors and people practicing hypnosis back in those days, like you say, before the internet and before things were widely shared. The fact that people were coming up with similar stories and describing similar beings and similar sort of things happening. That's certainly very interesting how lots of people could be saying the same thing.
I think for me, two things to say about that particularly. One, we'd have to know more about that group of people, where they lived, and a lot more about them in terms of what they'd seen on television, if television existed, what they heard on the radio, or what they read in newspapers. I would then go to a more recent experiment that Darren Brown did, where he got a load of advertising executives and he took them to a building and just simply he gave them very little instruction, said draw something. They all draw exactly the same as what Darren Brown drew, almost exactly. And he did that through a series of, literally on the car journeys from the hotel to the building. He made them do it by subconsciously just giving him certain cues. And we've seen this with him doing it in writing and so on. So and let's face it, these kind of mentalist acts have been around since forever. It's one of the earliest forms of magic. So you could potentially, again, I'm not saying it's everything, I'm just saying that one potential thing is maybe it was a social experiment, maybe it was a joke by some kind of person that did this, and in certain media, if they read the same newspaper, for example, if it was a national newspaper, and certain people picked it up, and they just, why they came out with the same thing. Just saying it's a possibility. Obviously, I can't explain everything, and you're right. The hypnosis thing. Just to come back to that real quick, you're right. Pop culture and the stereotypical. It was a white room. It was a cold bed, and I got probed by some 4-foot grey thing. everyone's going to come out of that story because that's ingrained in your mind now. And the people that believe obviously have this experience where they wake up in the morning and think, oh, that's happened to me. We've all had dreams that we have recurring dreams. I'm sure you guys have had recurring dreams.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've certainly had recurring dreams. You know, I've had the dream where you're flying and so on. And I've got certain recurring dreams that you could say, well, actually, if you take that and it's just your subconscious sorting stuff out. But if you take that and twist it around and add a bit of that to it and you put it into someone that believes in conspiracy theories, you could say, oh, well, actually, maybe that's, you know, maybe I wasn't flying on my own. Maybe I was in a craft looking down. Maybe I was... If you've got someone that's susceptible to believe that kind of thing, they'll believe it. And when it comes to a lie detector test or a hypnosis, if you honestly believe that happened, then you're going to prove positive in that test. You put someone in a lie detector test and say, are you Superman? Most of us will go, yeah, but it'll show that we're lying. But if you get someone that actually believes he puts a cape and boots on and jumps off the top, he'll fly, he will pass the test. And it's the same with hypnosis. If you really believe it and you really think you've experienced it, your brain will say you have.
I mean, lie detector tests are, scientifically speaking, dubious.
Yeah.
But
hypnosis works on your memory. But you can make memories up.
Yeah.
I mean, the police will interview you after an incident, and they say that if they don't get to you within the first 30 minutes, a lot of the details change. They could talk to several people there at the same time, and they've done experiments on this. It all changes. Well, that person will swear blind. It was a red car that came around that corner, went that way, and there was someone with a blue hat in the seat. And they'll swear blind. Their mind sees it. They're recalling it from their mind, but they never actually saw it. They got it slightly wrong, and they made it up in their mind. We fill in the gaps. You can read a whole passage of writing where all the words are spelt wrong, but the words at the beginning and the end of the word have got the right letters. Your brain doesn't read every single thing. It fills in the gaps automatically. And it's the same with memory and experience. So if you honestly believe it, surely your hypnosis is going to show that.
So reality is an illusion and we should trust nothing.
Computer and program. It was worth a try. No, I don't know that much about hypnosis. I'm guessing, and we're going to get comments to say, no, that's wrong because of this, that, and the other. This is just our opinions based on what we know right now, and we'd like to learn more. I think this is an interesting topic.
There's a lot of obviously strange things that have been reported over the years, and like you say, a lot of it can be explained away as being prosaic.
I'm trying, but there will be certain things. If you said to me, "Look at that," and I'll go, "I don't know. I can't explain it."
You know, there's things like you mentioned that are like misidentified, that are natural, or are like secret military tests and things like that. And a lot, you can kind of say that, you know, a lot of that will explain quite a bit of it. But I still think that there are certain things that are never explained, and lots of very highly qualified people like look into it, do tests, rigorous science, you know, and they can't explain it. They can't explain it to be any kind of earthly origin. But like you said, without kind of like a bombshell kind of evidence, it's very difficult to convince anybody who's, you know, either not had the experience or not had, you know, a broad range of knowledge of from all different places, from like public, from military, from science side of things. You know, it's very difficult to work it all out, I think.
I think if you declassified every single file that, say, the US government has, for example, on aliens or UFOs, okay, I don't think you'll find definitive proof that aliens have been to Earth. I think what you'll find is a lot of stuff that at the time was unexplainable, or that might even still be unexplainable, but that's the point, it's unexplainable.
I mean, let's look at it. This is an interesting way to look at it that we've not really looked at. If you was somebody from another system visiting Earth, you'd kind of do, I mean, it's a bit of an assumption, obviously, but you would kind of do the Star Trek thing, wouldn't you, of studying the planet, of like studying the people, studying the wildlife, the flora, fauna, how it all works, what makes everything tick, how it's different to your planet, your culture. So that is what you'd be here doing. You wouldn't be here to come and land and say hello straight away necessarily, and especially with the state of the planet and the way
first contact doesn't happen yet, Dave.
Not yet.
The average human disagreement.
Yeah, so you know they're not going to be kind of convinced immediately to land and interact with people on a big scale anyway. I wouldn't think.
I mean, they watch Independence Day, which we've broadcast into space
Yeah.
many times.
So
and
you know
like,
they're thinking that's
really?
humans' views of aliens and things.
Come to a planet,
Yeah.
planet. No, they don't come.
And then you possibly, I mean, if you expand it out further and you say, you know, carry on with the Star Trek side of it, and you say, you know, if there is a lot of life out there, and they've got kind of similar as in Star Trek, there is some kind of federation, and there is like a no interference rule and certain rules of conduct of how different civilizations deal with each other. Without having that context, you know, we might not understand it the way it's happening to us because of that, because we're looking at it from a very human level and just saying, oh, we just expect it to be there and to be able to kick it and go, it's real, and say hello and the rest of it.
To pick up what you're putting down, there are tribes in the world which are uncontacted or have limited contact.
They were recently in the news from satellite footage. One of the tribes that have been that don't have contact because they saw the drone or something and looked up or whatever. But there is pictures recently.
So then it's UFO.
They've not been seen for like 30 years or something. We've never looked, and recently they've had a quick peek to see how they're getting on. But yeah, you're right. To them, it would be alien.
Yeah, but on the other hand is that there are some tribes that are so violent that the few people that have made contacts haven't lived very long. So we try to just sort of like, oh, okay, everyone just stand back, watch from a distance, but don't go near them.
Yeah.
And
maybe that's what the aliens think about us.
Maybe.
I'm going to now change tact a little bit, and I'm going to say, well, let's go devil's advocate. Let's say what happens if there is someone out there now, okay? To get to this planet, the technology they would have to possess, as you guys kind of intimated towards the beginning of this, would have to be so superior to our own. All of the examples that we've talked about are based within the airspace inside the planet. We've never talked about spaceships approaching the planet. Now, we've got so many satellites, so much stuff recording from space stations to so on. I can't think of, there's probably plenty, but I've never seen anything in research where we've seen spacecraft approaching the planet.
There is footage that have been put out from International Space Station and from satellites. You have to go looking for it to find it, but it is out there.
So my thing is,
like anomalous
but
things.
it's something that's been seen. So if they've got the technology to get all the way here, would they not try and not be seen?
Well, a lot of
you would scan the satellites or the space station coming in.
But then again, you look at a lot of UFOs that just appear. You know, they don't come from orbit of the moon through the atmosphere down into the lower atmosphere and travel around. There are some that just appear. And so there have been kind of studies and kind of thoughts about, are they coming through like Eisen-Rosen bridges, through like wormholes? Is it potentially another aspect of like they're travelling interdimensionally and things like that from like another universe?
We're going to dig deep into that science now. We're not going to dig deep into that science.
We're going very quasi-pseudoscience there, and you know, not sort of things that we've proved or we know exist, but it's kind of as a hypothesis of, you know, how they could get here. To answer your kind of side of, well, how come there aren't loads of satellite images and videos of like these things?
Yeah.
Or to build on what you're saying, that any technology that's more advanced than our own would be indistinguishable from magic.
Yeah. That's a direct quote.
From who?
Jean-Luc Picard.
Didn't he quote it from someone?
Probably.
What about with other abduction stories where people see the bright light but also report missing hours of time?
There are medical conditions where you lose time. Heck, we've all sat there scrolling through our phone on social media at 3 o'clock, looked up and realised, oh crap, it's 6 o'clock. And it felt like 20 minutes. That's not some kind of weird thing. That's just a normal response to being engrossed in something.
But they didn't have TikTok in the 1950s.
No, but
Well, he was taken, put back, and had your memory wiped.
Or I don't.
I've been scrolling for 4 hours.
But I enjoyed that cat video. It was good. Look, I'm just saying that the body can do that. You can phase into a book. I've done it when I was younger. You know, I'd sit down. We used to do library sessions at school. I used to love reading, so I'd sit down. I'd open a book. We'd have an hour. It felt like 20 minutes had gone by, and all of a sudden, everyone's left the room, and the last ones are going out of the room, and I didn't even realise because I was so engrossed in the book. So, the brain can do that. Just again, devil's advocate on that, and.
You got the other aspect as well, where I mean, you talk about the missing time. The other aspect is when people arrive in different places, like closer to the destination than there was when this incident happened, or they're facing the other way round on the road, or
the way I want to explain that is, and as a driver, I've experienced this. Okay, you're driving along and you almost phase out. And it sounds really dangerous, but you do know what you're doing. But like
Autopilot?
Kind of. You're going down the motorway, for example, and I'm sure most drivers have had this. Probably you get a bit tired, or you're doing the same route over and over again. So your brain also almost deletes part of that journey. You don't really think about it because your brain's elsewhere, and all of a sudden you think, "Oh crap, I'm at junction whatever already." You don't remember the last 4 junctions. You've driven it because you've got there. But you just phase out slightly.
Which would probably happen, or most likely happen, on these country roads where there's no other human for miles.
So let's pose a question. Where do most of these stories take place?
I think main roads as well.
I think most of them, we would agree, happen in the middle of nowhere, where the brain is tempted to just drift off. And I'm not saying that any of those stories are not real. I'm just saying a possible explanation for some of those stories could be that. And for me, I'm in the not to believe it side. So everything you say to me, obviously, I'm trying to think of a possible reason for why that might happen. But, and I think this is a very important point, which we'll make in a minute, because we're going to jump back to our favourites for a second. A Geeky Guy's favourites, at the beginning we said, what is our favourite alien from a film or TV show? We've had a little time to think about it. Have you got an answer, Dave?
Yes.
Have you got an answer, Jethro?
I do.
Fantastic, I'm loving it. Let's go to Dave first. What are you going to go for?
For me, I'm going to go for the Predator.
Ooh. In where? What film?
Well, I mean, obviously in the first one, so it's kind of something that you've not really seen before, and obviously in later films you get more understanding of the species and the hierarchy and the history and everything, and how they're connected with Earth and with everything else. Yeah, it's just thought that was quite cool.
So not just the fact of the alien itself, but the story of it.
Yeah, the story around it as well.
Mr. Jethro, what are you going to go for?
I'm going to stay on theme and say Thor from the species of the Asgard from Stargate. Now, the Asgard were the grey aliens, but in an ironic twist, they were the species that were the most friendly to humans. So,
A minute there, I thought he was going to say Thor from Marvel, from Asgard. I suppose he is an alien, isn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, he's a god of thunder,
Yeah.
not a god of hammers.
No.
So, do you have one?
Oh, mine's a complete cop-out. Everyone knows which alien I'm going to pick. So, of course, I'm going to say Kal-El from Krypton.
Right,
Superman,
of course,
one of my favourite aliens. Sorry, it's a cop-out, I know. But, yeah, a big Superman fan. So if we're going to go alien, at least this one turns up and tries to help us, which is pretty good.
Well, I think, go back to the discussion then. Let's crank it up to 11. Let's push it.
Let's end on an 11 because we're running it out of time.
Let's hypothesise, push it forward in time.
Go on.
Let's just say the announcement's just been made.
Yep, BBC breaking news.
Yeah, it's real. Aliens exist.
Yep.
They've been visiting either from another system, another universe, another dimension, whatever it is. What's your reaction to that new paradigm and this new future for you?
I'd probably say, my goodness, he looks like Crowley from Supernatural. Because it's probably going to be him, let's be honest, he's being everything else. Well, I obviously...
would it be an or would it be, I'm interested to find out more?
We'll keep that out. If it's on like BBC Breaking News, they're here, I think that would take... That would lead whether it's a positive or a negative. If you're saying, and here he is, Oh, hello everyone, hello. Then obviously
Be
that.
on BBC Breakfast and
Yeah.
just
Sat on the
So
sofa.
tell us, what did you think when you first came to Earth? If it's aliens are here, the US are mounting whatever. Well, they probably would anyway, to be fair. Everyone's on high alert, everyone's...
Let's just change it slightly. Let's say it's not an announcement of an invasion.
Okay.
It's not got a big negative
They're
connotation to
here, they've spoken to some of the world leaders. We're happy that there's no big threat.
it. Yeah. They've been studying us for years. It's been kept secret, but it's now been announced.
Well, I mean, obviously, they're there. You cannot deny it because it's there in front of you. Obviously, there are those that are going to say it's a hoax. I'm not one of those people.
You're not going to sit on this team, that's a load of crap, isn't it? Hoax. April the 1st.
I'm going to be a little sceptical, but I won't say it's a hoax. I think that in due time it will reveal itself to be whatever it is.
Or would you be looking to learn more, or would you not really be bothered? Or?
Oh no, of course I want to know more. I as a sci-fi person, a space person, a science person, certainly I want to know more. I want to know where they're from. I want to know how they got here. I want to know if they're sharing that technology, so we can finally get transporters.
Mother's maiden name.
Yes, your first
Bank
pet.
account.
Name of your first pet.
Okay.
I want to know whether we can have that technology to make transporters and holodecks, and finally get that fleet going for Starfleet, which would be quite nice.
What about you, Mr. Jethro?
I'll be like, oh, about time. Because we've been teased about like the reveal of aliens for months and months and months now, yet nothing's happening. I'm going to be so disappointed. It's going to be such a letdown when we finally like make contact with aliens. It's just going to be like, finally. Anyway, and then move on.
There's a lovely
There's
funny
only
line.
one group been visiting us, and they're all called Nigel.
There's a lovely funny line in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy in the series of books. I don't know if you remember this. And it talks about Port Ford Prefect is telling Arthur Dent about, and I forget what they called it, boomers or something like that. And he says, oh, it's just young kids that are rich that buzz by planets that aren't that advanced and sort of do UFO visits and like scare farmers and things. And it's just a lovely line that Douglas Adams put in. I thought was quite funny.
That's pretty good.
Sorry, it's doing my head in. Crowley, the actor, what's his name? He's gone
Mark Sheppard.
Mark Sheppard, thank you. The alien would be Mark Sheppard.
Right, boys.
Hello, Moose. I think the only thing we can draw from today, honestly, is the fact that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of potential evidence, there's a lot of it that can be explained, there's some that can't yet. Whether that explanation is that it's genuine, or whether that explanation is that someone's doing one hell of a job, racking up views on TikTok.
And if there is a cover-up, obviously it'll break eventually and come out in time anyway.
Well, we wouldn't know,
if there
would
is.
we? Even when they declassify things, let's be honest, they're under no, if it's top secret, they're not going to declassify that, are they?
No.
If there has been a visit, they're not going to declassify there's been a visit because it would put the whole world, let's face it, onto red alert, and people are scared of the unknown. Humans are scared of the unknown.
And also the fossil fuel companies would be losing a bit of money as well if all this new technology comes in and we don't need oil or coal or gas anymore.
Trust me, aliens turn up, Elon Musk would want to buy them.
Yeah, probably. And rebrand them as X.
Basically.
The X-Files.
The
X-Files.
Oh, admit them, they're really great. I'll stop doing that now. Okay. I think, as I said, we just don't know. Jethro, are you still on the fence right in the middle after this discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Dave, are you still more slightly positive? You think there probably is
more
something?
slightly positive still, yeah.
Yeah. I must admit, you said an odd few things there that made me actually
the other way
realise.
a little bit.
Well, it's just I don't know about them.
Right.
So I do need to research more about them. So I think I'm still not up to the middle, but I would say I'm a little further towards the middle,
Right.
just a fraction. But I'm still on the, generally I don't think it's happened. I think it probably could be explained with some more information that we've just not got. Having said that, who knows?
Join us at the end of Series 12 to see if they've arrived with
We'll be back in 2067.
the answer.
Where we'll be interviewing the first alien who came to Earth. Oh dear. Well, it's time for a Geeky Guy's favourite. What was your favourite conspiracy theory about you?
Yeah.
Oh, it's been a laugh and a giggle today. Hope you've laughed along with us, and I hope your comments aren't too harsh in the comments field. thank you so much for watching. You can catch up with all the stuff we're doing on social media, and all our links and all the other information is on at geekyguys.co.uk. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time. We might not be actually. 2 weeks' time. No, we're nearly at Christmas. So you might be joining us for our Christmas special next. Yes, we're back for our Christmas special next, where we're not talking about aliens at all.
Unless they landed, then we will have to.
Yeah, it's an early Christmas present for the world, and we'll have to discuss that.
Oh dear. Thanks for watching again, guys, and we'll see you then.